to the sky, fly so high, dive back down, burning, move so fast, I go right past your eye, dodging them bullets, they come at me with their teeth serrated, but they don't hurt me, superhero, cause I'm animated.
So before I go slaving away doing schoolwork, hopefully get a job that's decent, that's just my personal preference, I wanted to give my own thoughts on the live action How to Train Your Dragons movie, because I just watched it earlier today, and I gotta say, initial thoughts, before I critique it even more, one of the best live action remakes ever done. I can break this down between characters and acting, design, the music, and the just overall thoughts. Coming first is characters. Nearly all characters were like their original counterparts, especially Hiccup and Stoic. You kind of feel more than what you would do in the animation, because they're real people, so if they're putting on like an act, obviously. Take example, Rick Grimes in The Lineup. I know, that's a sad episode. But you really feel with the characters, especially what's about to happen or what's going to happen. And if you've watched the original series more than once, chances are you're most likely inclined to feel the same way. And being that with real life people that are on the screen, you kind of just feel along with them. Now, Hiccup, perfect. Near perfect remake of him. Astrid, also near perfect. Somehow I feel like I prefer this live action Astrid over the original. But again, that's the live action effect. Fish Legs, he was done well, but I honestly prefer his original style first. The twins, they practically stayed the same. Let's be real. Now for Snotlout, I don't know if it's just me, but you do kind of feel bad for him. Like, obviously, there's the arrogant, egotistical, or prideful character that transitioned over from the original animation to the live action. And sometimes you kind of just want to slap him or punch him because of what he says. That's kind of annoying, but you gotta deal with it. But then there's the subplots with his dad, getting approval from his dad, which you didn't really see in the original animation. And I know I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's what I'm expecting to see in this movie. Gobber was damn near perfect, if I'm being honest. Like, when the scene of when he explains that dragons always go for the kill, instead of in the animation where he says it quietly to Hiccup, he says it loud enough for everyone to hear, while also kind of scolding Hiccup, only for it to transition to Hiccup going back to Toothless, asking why Toothless didn't go kill him. Which, honestly, I'll get to this in the other segment, but the Gobber, Stoic, excellent casting roles. And with Stoic, you kind of expected him to be stubborn from the first movie, but God, he barely listens to Hiccup up until the end. And I'm just ranting out of my mouth. This is just my initial thoughts. I'll probably watch it again later on in my life. But this was. Sorry. But it was. It was a breath of fresh air, if I'm being honest. Designs. Designs were spectacular. It really was like a Viking. A Viking-esque era. Especially with technologies and how they spoke and the clothing. Like, I don't know what it was, but it reminded me of a mix between For Honor's Vikings mixed with, like, other media Viking clothing. Like, Thorfinn from Ghost? I think that's what the show is called. So yeah, it was surreal. Coupled with the dragon's designs, which looked more reptilian-like and slithery, but enough where it's a mix of dogs or any cute animal, really. Namely dogs, though. And another thing I should mention was how they breathe fire, because I know you probably see it in the original animation, but you see it a lot more, at least from what I've noticed. Then again, I am taking an intro to film art class over the summer, so there's that. But you kind of notice the use of green gas. Like, I know the Zipplebacks use it, and the Red Death uses it before it ignites fire and spews it out. So it was a neat detail seeing that used more, if I'm being honest. I've talked about the details and the characters. The story remains the same from the first movie. That is how you should do a remake, because you have the simple structures, you have the layout, you just gotta do it, but make it look live action. That's why this, I think, is one of the best live action movies ever. Lilo and Stitch, since that was the last movie I watched, could have been better. It was good, but it was not even close to the original. Also should say that, like Stitch in the movie, Toothless was also the best character in this film. Another thing I should talk about before ending it off is the brutality, I should say. Because it's more live action, you kind of feel the emotions of the characters. Whereas in animated, you're like, oh, that feels bad. At least for me. You feel bad. You somewhat want to cry, especially if some voice and words stick to you. But to actually see it transpire from animated to live action hits in the feels more. But that's only if you feel that way, I should say. For me, that's seeing it from a real life person than to hear it from the voice of someone. I think that fits better, if I'm being honest. And again, with the brutality, near the end with the fight of the Red Death, because back in the original movie, they shoot holes in the wings of the Red Death so it can crash down into a fiery death pit. But in this film, at least for me, you kind of notice the brutal tearing of the wings before it becomes like the scaly part of the wing structure, before it just becomes that, because the flaps that go down break and just spread to the point where it's just a skeleton at this point. That's what I think is brutal with the wing destruction. And when the Red Death dies, instead of just heading headfirst into the ground, fiery death pit because of the blast toothless shot in the mouth. This time, Toothless did the same thing, but instead of the Red Death crashing into the ground, it crashes into the volcano. So that, coupled with the volcano's heat, making it more fiery and more brutal, because it hits the volcano first, damaging the head even further before the Red Death succumbs to the before the Red Death succumbs to its wounds and fire damage. I would also like to note that, well, if my memory is kind of foggy, that when Astrid was taken down from the Red Death onto the ground by Hiccup, I don't remember her doing this in the original movie, but she uses her axe and kind of brutally cuts the Red Death's teeth off slowly, because the Red Death has a lot, but it's cutting off the teeth as if they're like trees. So seeing that, I'm only imagining how bad that must have hurt. Like, you're having a little person chop off your tooth, making it even shorter and less sharp. What else are you supposed to do other than to try and fling them off? Those were my overall thoughts and commentary of the movie, at least from first watching. Probably watch it again. I'll definitely watch it again. This movie, one of the best live action remakes possible, because it was damn near perfect to the original. Signing out now. Peace.
Fly so high, dive back down, burning, move so fast, I go right past your eye. Dodging them bullets, they come at me with their teeth serrated, but they don't hurt me, superhero, 'cause I'm an